Hey everyone, I decided to type, tape a quick video. Uh, As every pastor, every church is, well, most are not having services these days, and we're trying to communicate this way. That's not what I'm doing today. It's just something that's been on my mind. I've been thinking about. Um, those who know me know I'm an online guy anyway. I've always been, and since this COVID thing has happened, there's been a lot of you know out, outpouring of different ideas and different takes on how to approach this thing. And one thing that I found noteworthy is that um, some were feeling that we shouldn't post or talk about the numbers that had passed or those who were suffering, and that we should only talk about those who had recovered. And there's nothing wrong with that, nothing at all. Um, but then I thought about how Jesus did it. And I remember Jesus's mission statement, and his mission statement was it's on my wall. And he said that the Spirit of the Lord is upon him because he had come to heal, to bind the brokenhearted, to set the captives free, to give beauty for ashes. That was his mission. But Jesus also he created such a movement. He was the Son of God, and he took over the world as we know it. We even use the Christian calendar. My point is that Jesus was balanced. We see Jesus feeding the multitude, but then we also see him going across the Jordan in a boat to deliver the man of the Gadarenes. He howled at night in the tombs, and he would cut himself, and they tried to chain him, but he could not be chained. And when he saw Jesus, he fell at Jesus's feet, and he worshipped him. I'm also aware of the fact that Jesus left and went to Samaria and met the woman at the well. And the disciples said, "How can you do this thing? She's a woman, she's a Samaritan," and all these things. But through his encounter with her, he showed us that every life is important, whether they be Jew, Gentile, or Samaritan. Jesus made a detour to deliver these two people, yet still delivering and preaching to and meeting the needs of the masses. I'm also reminded of when he was in the throng of the crowd and a woman with an issue. She forced her way through and she touched him, and he felt the virtue leave his body. And he said, "Who touched me?" The disciple says, with their smart remarks, because they're men like us, right? And they say, "What do you mean, who touched you? This is a crowd." But Jesus knew. That means that he's aware of our individual sufferings too, even though he's in a crowd. And I don't want us to think that we have to grab a hold of one part of Jesus and feel he's for the crowd, and then not feel that he's for the individual. Because often the individual who's lost, they're the ones who start drinking or who start drugging or who would hurt themselves. These are the suicides because they feel they're not a part of. And Jesus was also, even though he had the disciples around him a lot, he was also a lonely man. He spent time in the wilderness, but yet still, he has such power again that he delivered the entire world. John 3:16 said that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomsoever believe, all of us, whomsoever believe, shall not perish but have everlasting life. But then again, I'm also aware that he made time to deliver Lazarus. And when a Roman centurion came and said that my servant is ill, and he said, "You don't have to come," and Jesus gave his word, and that man's servant, a Roman servant, was delivered. I also recall when the little girl Talitha had died, and they said, "Don't trouble the master, she's dead." Yet still, Jesus says she's only sleeping. And he threw the people out because they would mock that she's dead. And he called her to come. He said, "Talitha cumi." Similar thing happened with Lazarus. Mary said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And Jesus wept over this man who was really not much of, was not an apostle, did nothing great about him. which shows us that he's concerned about the least of these, but is concerned about the many also. Jesus has such confidence in the many. He said that if he lost one sheep, that he would leave the 99, because he has such faith in the 99. It's also that he's going after the one, yes, but he has such confidence of those who are in his hand. And it's good to rejoice that you're among the saved, and Jesus has such confidence in you. He does. And you are the ones who hold down the fort. But Jesus still yet went after the one, the lost sheep. So when you have confidence in the Lord of his deliverance and how he's keeping you safe, it is an amazing thing. And it is also even more amazing that Jesus would get up and find the man in the gatherings, and find that one sheep, and go find dead stinking Lazarus, and go after the Samaritan woman, because Jesus knows that he has, as we sang in Sunday school, he has the whole world in his hands. I'm recalling also that when Jesus was on the cross, he was being crucified. We don't let the word excruciating, it's Latin for out of the cross. That the pain of the cross is such that it's given its own descriptive term, excruciating, out of the cross. That even though he was in such pain, undergoing such pain, for all of us, for the masses, for the many, yet still he told John to take care of his mother. So Jesus is never so preoccupied that he's not concerned about us all. Individually, you right now, whatever you're going through, this is for you. Jesus knows. And Jesus is not just lost in the crowd. You don't ever think that he's just thinking about everybody else but not you. But no, there are many examples in which Jesus does it all, both for the many and for the individual. Lastly, when he had descended into hell, and Mary was in the cave, and Mary, all the others were gone, but Mary ran back to the cave, and Mary, as for tradition, stated that she had many demons, and she was maybe a street walker. Tradition says that. We don't know if it's true or not. In any case, she was so overcome with gratitude for the Lord as an individual that she poured the ointment over him, and her tears and her hair tended to his feet. And after he was crucified, she went to the cave where the crowd was gone. The disciples were gone. They were safe. Jesus held them even though he was gone. He held them secure because he didn't lose not one person. But Mary went, an individual, and she saw the angels, and they asked her, "Mary, why are you crying?" And she didn't recognize them. She says, "If you can just show me where my Lord is." And sometimes we feel that way. If you can just show me where my Lord is, the individual. Those people who are losing right now. Those people who can't breathe right now. Those people who died within 2 days, who died alone in those hospitals. And maybe they're wondering, if you can just show me where my Lord is. And Mary was saying this, though the angels were there. Yet she was so caught up in pain she could not see. And sometimes, though we may have angels around us, good people, praying people, we still need a touch from the Lord. And the Lord appeared. And she didn't recognize him. And she said, she thought he was the gardener. And she says, "If you just show me where his body is." She herself, an individual, she was ready to take upon the burden of a man's body. She just wanted to bury it, because all her hopes and dreams she thought were lost, but they weren't. And then Jesus called out her name, and he said, "Mary." And she recognized him, and she went to touch him. And he said, "Touch me not, because I have not yet ascended unto my Father." Hear me. Jesus had gone to hell. He conquered death. He conquered hell. And he was up on his way to ascend to the Father. But a former crazy street walker, lone woman, and women in those days had no rights, was in a cave, and he stopped. He stopped to comfort, and he gave her a message. And that message she went to the apostles, and they came back to take a look. They didn't believe, but in some traditions, they call her the apostle unto the apostles. So the individual is important. So is the masses, because he's told her to be with the masses, to get them and tell them. So while we go on through this COVID thing, and it's tossed up our churches, it's tossed up our lives, and things are confusing, and we're trying to hold on to something. Jesus is enough. He's with you. If you're alone and suffering, he's with you. If you've been delivered, he's with you. Wherever you are, he's with you. He is not a man that he should lie.